Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
So glad you're with us for the Wednesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We have good, bad, crazy martinis for you today. We've got more reaction to the Hunter Biden pardon. We've got Adam Schiff being about as big of a hypocrite as possible. And the possibility of more aliens in New Jersey, Jim. I mean, it really is covering all the bases today. What do you think?
Soup to nuts. And although these days the news is a bit more on the nuts side.
That's pretty much as a good way to sum it up as you can possibly get, because there's a lot of people who say they know nothing about what's happening in the skies over New Jersey. When Adam Schiff finds out what a former California House member says about prosecuting your political adversaries, he's going to be horrified now that he's a member of the U.S. Senate. But we're going to start with the latest news and numbers from the American people about what they think of the Hunter Biden pardon. So stay tuned for all of that. But in the meantime, look, no one can really tell the future. Jim and I are going to do predictions for 2025 in a couple of weeks here. But nonetheless, nobody really knows for sure. And they certainly don't know what it's going to mean for your business. But over 38,000 businesses have future-proofed their operations with NetSuite by Oracle, the leading cloud ERP platform. It integrates key business functions like accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one seamless system, ensuring that businesses are ready for the future.
Closing your books in days and not weeks means that you spend less time on past reports and more time focusing on future growth. This efficiency lets you shift your attention from historical tasks to the strategic initiatives that will drive your business forward.
I talk with small business owners and experts all the time. You need to streamline this system. These are the things that could take up a ton of your time, but they don't need to anymore. Let NetSuite by Oracle do it for you. And if you need that service, NetSuite by Oracle is the way to go. Download also the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/martini. The guide is free to you at netsuite.com/martini. That's netsuite.com/martini. All right, Jim, as mentioned, Hunter Biden's pardon. It's now about a week and a half ago that we got this news on a Sunday night after over and over and over again hearing from Joe Biden, from Karine Jean-Pierre, that this would never happen. The president trusts the justice system. He's not going to pardon Hunter. He's not even going to commute Hunter's sentence. But that's exactly what Biden did. We all knew it was coming. And so it shouldn't have come as a huge surprise, but it still comes as an outrage to most Americans. And most Americans are responding the way that we did. Associated Press, only about 2 in 10 Americans approve of President Joe Biden's decision to pardon his son Hunter after earlier promising he would do no such thing. The survey found that a relatively small share of Americans strongly or somewhat approve of the pardon, which came after the younger Biden was convicted on gun and tax charges. About half said they strongly or somewhat disapprove. And about 2 in 10, the same that approve, neither approve nor disapprove. So it's always good to have those people with strong convictions. This story from Ed Morrissey over at Hot Air also calls out Karine Jean-Pierre for saying in the wake of the pardon, Jim, that 64% of the American people agreed with the pardon. That's off by a factor of threefold. In reality, he says it was 64% of Democrats that supported the pardon initially, and I'm not even sure that number is holding up that well. So I'm not surprised by this number, but it's still reassuring to know that the American people are calling Joe Biden out for his big fat lie.
It is, Greg. I will just note that I have a little bit of a response to that 22%. What's wrong with you? Have you put them in the NFL concussion protocol? Have you had unless like how many Americans think that maybe, well, if Hunter got one, maybe I can get a pardon. And 22% of Americans think they're in line. I would not count on that. My colleague and our sometimes guest host, Andy McCarthy, wrote an essay making the argument that like it would take a constitutional change, but like the president's pardon authority should be taken away. And they just mean like Joe Biden. He just means like no president should have this anymore. Members of Congress can do it. There are judges who can overturn convictions and all that stuff. That this is and think about it. When you've heard about pardons in recent years, chances are you've heard about somebody who's kind of a scuzzy person, but buddies with the president, getting some sweet deal. Mark Rich, going back to that. By the way, I did pick up the Bill Clinton multi-volume autobiography in which he talks about the Mark Rich pardon. I know it's going to shock you, Greg. Turns out Bill Clinton thinks Mark Rich was a perfectly innocent guy who just stumbled into not paying his taxes to the tune of $50 million. But he then later paid him back. So, like, what's the big deal? And that, Mark Rich was a victim in this, and he too, Bill Clinton, was a victim in all this too. Casual mentioning of Denise Rich and how hot she was. I'm sorry. Okay, he doesn't mention. My memory was that Denise Rich was hot, and that played a role in Clinton's interest in the case. But ironically, the one guy who didn't get a pardon, who probably had one coming, Scooter Libby, right? That's the one case where you could say which was a pardon controversy. He got one from Trump, not from Bush, right?
Yeah.
Obama pardons. He commuted a whole bunch of sentences for people on marijuana charges that was beyond he couldn't get Congress to do it, so he just decided to do it all by himself. And I was going to say, like, the idea of like commuting it for like thousands of people all at once strikes me as a bad decision. But I guess you can go back to Carter and the draft dodgers. Steve Bannon, and now with Biden, like most of the time when you hear about a presidential pardon, it's like somebody got off the hook when they really didn't deserve to. That's a subtle invocation of Dennis Green. So maybe we shouldn't have any, but I think the poll results like this, it would be a long effort, and my guess is the outrage over this will get forgotten about sooner or later. But maybe it's time to reevaluate this sweeping, the one area in which the president is like a king and there are no limits on the president's power. It does put out a potential for abuse, and I think, cycle by cycle, we see more and more transparent abuse of this power.
Yeah, some of them you can defend. I remember the outrage on the right when Campion and Ramos, the border agents, were sent up the river for a long time, and Bush ended up commuting their sentence, not overturning the convictions, but getting them out of prison. Did Bill Clinton talk about how the Puerto Rican terrorists were big-time victims, too? I remember those pardons.
I'm only 2 or 3 chapters in, so I couldn't get there. They were victims too. Everybody's a victim. You're a victim. I'm a victim. Everybody's a victim.
Yeah, he was trying to get Puerto Rican support built up for Hillary for the 2000 Senate race. you can't fool us on that one. And then I remember Obama commuting the sentence of Bradley Manning or Chelsea or whatever Manning is going by now, just to throw a benefit to that community. So, I mean, the political aspects of pardons have been going on for a very long time. And by the way, that 64% of Democrats, that was a U.S. Gov poll. According to this AP poll, only 38% of Democrats now approve of the pardon. Only 27% of Democrats openly oppose it. 80% of Republicans disapprove, only 7% approve, which you could pretty much expect. Among independents, only 12% support it, 51% disapprove. So even from one poll to the next, assuming their methodology is even remotely close, things are trending in the right way in how Americans are responding to this pardon. All right, let's talk about Lumen, the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. Again, you want something that's going to help you, works well, and could not be easier to use. All you have to do is grab your Lumen after you wake up each morning, take a deep breath, exhale into your Lumen, and it's going to tell you what's going on. Are you burning fat? You're burning carbs? After that, it'll tailor your guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management.
Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food that you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. And because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, ideal metabolic health can translate to a whole host of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, and even better sleep. And Lumen will give you recommendations to improve your metabolic health.
Yeah, you don't need to go on some dietary plan that's insane like Tom Brady had all those years in New England. But your body, it can tell you what you need and what you don't need at that point, and that's going to fuel your body the best way possible. So if you want to stay on track with your health, especially this holiday season, go to lumen.me/3ml to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/3ml for 15% off your purchase. Lumen makes a great gift, too. Again, that's lumen.me/3ml. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. All right, Jim, let's move on to our bad martini. I guess you can call it a crazy one, too. The hypocrisy is just off the charts here. Sadly, Adam Schiff is now U.S. Senator Adam Schiff. He was sworn in a couple of days ago. That's because this was Dianne Feinstein's seat. She died. Gavin Newsom put in a placeholder who wasn't going to run for the seat. Pretty sure she didn't even live in California anymore, but that's beside the point. She's not there anymore, Senator Butler. And now you've got Adam Schiff, who unfortunately won, not surprisingly, very easily over Steve Garvey in this last November Senate race out in California. So he's already in front of the microphones alongside Chuck Schumer and the rest of the leadership there with the Democrats. And the issue came up of Trump making noise about potentially pursuing criminal charges against folks on the January 6th Commission or other people who he believes railroaded him or his allies in the previous administration or even sometime over the past 4 years. And Schiff is horrified by this. He says, how could you be doing this? This is so undemocratic. Well, Twitter's a wonderful thing. And so this video now exists of Schiff, who you might remember chaired the House Intel Committee after Democrats got control of it after the 2018 midterms, talking in 2018, 2019 about how Trump needed to be prosecuted as soon as he left office, followed by what he said yesterday.
On the day Donald Trump leaves office, the Justice Department may indict him.
Very strongly in favor of indicting the president when he is out of office.
I don't think the incoming president should be threatening his political opponents with jail time. That's not the kind of talk we should hear from a president in a democracy.
Wow. The circumstances seem to change depending on who's sitting where, Jim.
So today's Morning Jolt is about Alvin Bragg and the interesting sense that, yes, he got his conviction of Donald Trump on, false and misleading business filings regarding to payments to Stormy Daniels. But you think about, Bragg now facing a great deal of consternation for a variety of reasons of his prosecutorial record. The idea that he won the biggest case of his life, he got those convictions against Trump, but it's interesting, it certainly didn't stop Trump from getting reelected. And you can make a very strong argument that it backfired and kind of this almost like Shakespearean. You get that goal that you've wanted for so much, but in the process, it costs you everything else, right? Schiff is another guy who really went after Trump with everything conceivable. And he's a U.S. Senate, like some figures who have gone up against Trump, certainly Biden, certainly Harris. You could say, well, they've lost a lot. They have their ambitions were consumed them, and they've ended up paying life-altering consequences for that. Schiff has gone from being a member of the House to a senator and had Pelosi effectively clearing the path for him. And I think what gets me the most, so what makes Schiff stand out is that I went back and checked, 2019, he was going around saying, quote, there's ample evidence of collusion in plain sight. I use that word very carefully, right? And he's chairman of the House Intelligence Committee at that time. So we on the public who are trying to evaluate this accusation assume that because of his position on the committee, Adam Schiff has seen things the rest of us have not, that there's some sort of secret information, documents, NSA signals intercept. There's something out there that was going to be a smoking gun and say, aha, it was not just that Vladimir Putin enjoyed stirring up divisions in American society. It was that, that it wasn't just that they had similar goals and they both hated Hillary Clinton, but that there was collusion, that they were working together. They were working hand in glove. And then, of course, the Mueller report comes out and says, yeah, we can't prove it. Like all of a sudden, people go, like, where was this? And it was always, and to this day, Schiff insists that there's evidence, except he can't generate it. He always say, what he'll do is he'll say, oh, look at what's out there. It's so obvious. And most people say, well, if it was, remember like for weeks, we had Robert De Niro playing Mueller on SNL, sketches on all the late night shows. And the idea was that Mueller was like, the ultimate hard ass. He was the guy who, he's like a Canadian Mountie. He always gets his man. Mueller goes out there, doesn't find the goods, puts out a report saying we couldn't confirm it. And all of a sudden, even his own aides are saying, God, Mueller, he's senile. He's way past his prime. He just can't. And like, where was all this before he issued his report? But anyway, so Schiff really never paid a price for this. Does this mean Adam Schiff should be, no one should be pursuing nonsense charges against Schiff? I think at minimum, making statements claiming there's evidence out there when there isn't, it's very unethical. I don't know if it necessarily violates any laws. It certainly, I think, characterizes an abuse of power. When you're on the House Intelligence Committee, people believe that you know stuff that the rest of us don't. And so what was the Republican on the House Intelligence Committee who talked about Russia having a space-based weapon, and the idea was that they were going to set off a nuke. They're developing the capability to set off a nuke in space that would take out our satellites. It was a concern. It was not something they had. It was a capability they were pursuing. But he put out this very vaguely worded announcement, and you had people afraid the sky was going to fall. And I just feel like if you're on the House Intelligence Committee, you have a responsibility to be careful with your words. You cannot mislead people. You cannot leave impressions that are false or erroneous, because the rest of us who don't have a clearance can't say, look, these same evidence and say, nah, you're overstating this. So anyway, Schiff is a particularly bad example of that. We'll see if anything happens, but it's, you can marvel at the fact that here we are all these years later, and Schiff still insists that there's evidence of collusion, that it's glaring, and that Trump should have been prosecuted for it.
All right, well, you can think about Adam Schiff all day, and nobody really wants to do that and his level of hypocrisy. Or you could think about how amazing the products you're going to get in your next Moink Box. Support American family farms and join the Moink movement today at moinkbox.com/martini. Sign up right now and get free wings for life. Think about what you're getting. Amazing steaks, amazing chicken and pork, of course. The best bacon I've ever had. You can't go wrong with the Moink Box.
Now, why are these products better? Well, you may not realize that 99% of the chicken, 95% of the pork, and 78% of the cattle in the United States are raised in feedlot or confinement buildings. Also, more than 80% of the antibiotics in the United States are fed to animals. There are 10,000 food additives in America's food supply, and I think my favorite statistic from the good folks over at Moink, less than 2% of Americans are farmers, and yet 100% of us eat.
Exactly. Again, keep American farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/martini. Join the Moink movement at moinkbox.com/martini for free wings for life. The best wings you'll ever taste. Absolutely free, but only for a limited time. That's moinkbox.com/martini. All right, Jim, on to our crazy martini now. And as a New Jersey native, I'm sure you have even a keener interest in this than the rest of us. But there's mysterious things in the skies over New Jersey. Most people believe that they're drones, but nobody's really sure who put them up there or what they're doing up there. The governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, keeps saying, you know what? As soon as we put a light on those things, they go dark. So we're still not sure what's happening. And so up on Capitol Hill, people are demanding answers. You've got folks like Missouri Senator Josh Hawley saying either the government knows what's happening and won't tell us, or our government is not doing its job.
Yeah, you can't tell me that we don't know what that is. I just think they're not being honest with us. I think that if we don't know, if our government really has no idea, then they're even more incompetent than I thought. We've got to get to the bottom of this, and they need to level with the American people about what's going on. It's crazy.
That's obviously on Fox News, as you can tell by the background music there. But then also you got Mark Green. He's the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. He's less certain about what's going on here. Could be anything, and we got to get to the bottom of it.
These drones could be from anyone, a recreational user. They could be from our adversaries that are spying on our infrastructure and the layout of our infrastructure, our military. We don't know. You're right. We don't know. The problem is that the authorizations are about to expire. So we've got legislation right now to renew those and to expand the authorizations that allow both DOJ and DHS, and in this legislation advance those authorities to local authorities to actually watch these things, and in the case of where there's a threat, to destroy them.
That clip also from the Fox News channel. So, Jim, the mystery continues. Oddly enough, this is the state where, War of the Worlds was supposedly centered in 1939 or whenever that came out from Orson Welles. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but, some people are saying, hey, we let the Chinese spy balloon go across the country. We either are letting our adversaries do this again, or our own government's doing this and for some reason not telling us what it's up to. What do you think? What are you hearing? What do we still need to find out?
Well, I point out to listeners, when Greg sent this video snippet as potential use on today's program, I was excited not over Josh Hawley, but the file footage of the unidentified flying object in the skies is from Edison, New Jersey, next to my old growing up hometown of Metuchen, New Jersey. And if aliens walk among us and they are disguised as humans, as in the idea of, Men in Black and other films, boy, does that explain a bunch of my high school classmates. A whole bunch of people in Central Jersey hanging around the mall. Oh, all right, that now, okay, yeah. And I would point out that they're probably not hostile intentions. They're probably just a bunch of stoners. So that's the good news about the potential aliens there. A bit more seriously, it is intriguing to see the likes of these senators, Mark Warner, our senator here in Virginia, Cory Booker's reached out to the FAA. The sheer number of lawmakers who are like, what the heck is that? And the degree to which they keep, not having any clarification. I do keep seeing statements from the likes of Phil Murphy, the the governor of New Jersey, and other officials who insist, we don't know what it is, but there's no threat to anyone. Well, how do you know then? Right? We don't see any Zorgon death rays coming down right now. So my guess is could they be aliens and we're kind of like a wildlife preserve to them, or we're some sort of they're kind of watching us to say, let's see what humanity's doing next. This is the best show on television. I can't, and they're monitoring. Okay, that'd be, it's potential that it's not hostile. Maybe it is. Maybe we frighten them. And if you spend a lot of time watching people from New Jersey, you would be frightened. You would say, I don't want to deal with this species. They're kind of crazy and unpredictable. But I think, particularly with our experience of the Chinese spy balloon last year, the theory that does not require you to believe in aliens or extra-dimensional beings and dark forces, as Tucker Carlson had put it, or anything else like that, is the idea that they are some sort of drone technology. And there are only a certain number of countries that would have the ability, because we're pretty good at detecting stuff. We're pretty good at our NORAD, our air defense, and all that stuff. The idea of them, and by the way, the idea of them being unmanned would make a lot more sense for their ability to make maneuvers that would not be easy for a human pilot to do. But if it's a drone technology, well, it could be Russia, it could be China. Maybe there's maybe a couple of European countries would have technology to do it. But there really aren't that many that would have the ability to do something that our engineers and all the folks at DARPA and Skunk Works and all those, that they would look at that and say, I have no idea what that is, and I have no idea how we could recreate it. That's really the more frightening scenario, is that somebody out there has developed technologies that we do, and that they can send them over U.S. territories and U.S. airspace without us noticing. Now, the other thing is we also know from that Chinese spy balloon incident is that, that the instinct of the Biden administration was not to tell the American people. It's only when a newspaper out in Montana started publishing pictures that they come out and said, yes, that's the Chinese spy balloon. We've known where it was the whole time. Don't worry. There's nothing you have to worry about. Never mind the fact that it's circling around, U.S. military bases and stuff like that. I don't know what those things are. My tongue-in-cheek representation is it's central New Jersey. You're going to see weird stuff. But, I think there's reason for Americans to be concerned, and the fact that there are officials who are not known for being Alex Jones listeners, or really more fun, Art Bell, George Noory, and the usual crowd of, who are not known for being flying off the handle or being out there, who are suggesting that the truth is out there, to quote the X-Files, or that there is something out there that we don't know what it is, which is good reason for, doesn't mean panic. It just means be concerned, and we'd like to get answers. And if someone does have answers, it would be helpful to illuminate these things.
Yeah, two thoughts immediately crossed my mind when they say we don't know what it is, but you have nothing to worry about. It's like Frank Drebin in front of the fireworks factory that's blowing up. Please disperse. There's nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Yeah.
And the other thing I'm pretty sure of, Jim, no one's spying on the Jets and the Giants in their practices.
Ha!
Probably.
Aaron Rodgers has probably made contact with them in some way, in a suspended animation state in a dark chamber on God knows what kind of chemicals.
He's chugging ayahuasca with these aliens probably by now. So quite the off season coming up for them. Jim, have a great day. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Do subscribe to the podcast if you don't already. Tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. They're a huge help to us. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a terrific Wednesday and join us again on Thursday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.